what a night. This is what you've come for, and so am I.
Tell me, what's the number one television show in the whole wide world? And who loves you, and who do you love? One more time.
Big round of applause for all of our undercard competitors who today died so gruesomely. Good sports.
He is the creature. What can you say about him? Well, he's unique. There's none like him. I feel a special connection with him.
Without further ado, it's time to start running!
Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. Welcome to GPT with me. I am amidst aggregating some additional data, but I think I've got enough to go off of. So today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at how you are able to take your firmographic data and turn that into like actual like useful firmographic data. Sorry, your psychographic stuff. So like we're looking at a spreadsheet here that I put together. This is all just dummy data, so there's nothing of real importance here. And what we're trying to do is, take all of these write-in fields that people would have, write-in field for job function, for job title, number of employees, not necessarily like anything too crucial that we're going to find there that you couldn't find with reporting per se. But that is essentially what we're trying to do, is we're trying to look at these values that people have written in randomly, and we're trying to find out like, okay, well, out of everything that people have told us, what can we actually make of all of it, right? So first things first, let's basically assume, that this is a sheet that you've downloaded from your CRM that has all your customer information in it, right? With the exception of like record ID that's already missing. This is, usually what you would get, right? So one of the top questions that I get asked often is, okay, but if you're working in GPT and you're using like data or portal data, like how are you able to do anything with it? How are you able to make anything of it without actually causing any harm to the records, or without like causing any harm to the individuals or to the business or whatever it might be? The best way in which you can do that, is to just strip all the identifiers. So I've kind of put all of them almost in a row. But essentially what you're looking for is any and all identifiers that are along these lines, right? So obviously name, obviously email. To me, to be perfectly honest, at least to me, very honestly, address, right? Even if you didn't have these three identifiers, having somebody's full address in a system is also not kosher. Even if it's some partial stuff, like, again, some of these pieces of information for address, like if you wanted to get super specific with this, I would just use whatever spreadsheet tools and formulas you have available, as opposed to trying to like upload that to a large language model database. City and state, you can absolutely get through using reporting internally, so you don't need to be figuring anything out there. Really, and like company name is pretty, it's just not, it's a matter that so like why are we going through this exercise? Because it's a matter of this data being associated and tied to the rest of this data, right? There's no guarantee that the scramble is going to take place if you're using GPT-4, if you're using GPT 3.5. in order to do this. So that's really the main problem that you'll run into, is the fact that you don't want to tie anything together. You don't want any of this to be able to tie together. You just want it all to be as blank as possible. So we're going to get rid of everything there, right? And so all we're left with, excuse me, all we're left with is these additional factors. Company size and number of employees. Again, that's really something, not going to mess with company size because it's not really that random. Number of employees is kind of random. So we could play with that, but not really. You could just average that out in a report. So that's not really anything super useful. But if we're looking at industries, job titles, job functions, we can also average these out to find out which is most relevant, right? Or like what's most to least, let's say. The thing that might, that could screw things up, right, is when you're looking at job titles and you see like health service manager and you see risk manager. So just the number of times that manager is involved, let's say even on a job title level, and whether or not these manager titles should be at the same level or not. And do we have any? We have a few chief titles. So it's like another decision of should those be, I don't know why there's a chief technology officer in company industry, but yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I think that's supposed to be other way around, I believe. Yeah, let's try doing that. Okay. It obviously just didn't read right. So whether it's job function or job title, right? So there's, chief in here. We want to make sure maybe we want to bucket this into C-suite, right? So we're going to go through just a few exercises of being able to bucket data and then being able to sift firmographic data out of stuff. So the first things first, right, is being able to sift through being able to bucket values, which is pretty, you could use like, where is this? Column tools, and what is it? Of course, when you need to find something, you actually can't. It's right in front of me, I'm sure. Yep. So you can use column stats, right, to be able to determine which industry pops up most often, right? The reason that we would use a language model in order to determine things would be things like this job function, where it's written in sort of randomly and there aren't a whole lot of matchups. Okay. Same thing with job title here. There's a lot of them that might be the same thing, but are just written differently. Right. And everybody knows how that works, where it's just, somebody that just writes in their own special title. Okay. So let's do away with industry because there's really not. I mean, we could keep this. Actually, I want to keep this. We could keep this. I'll keep it and see if I can do with it what I'm thinking of, which is to leverage industry against the rest of the data in order to pull some additional insights. So outside of that, some of this came earlier than the rest of it. This column came last, which is why it's a little bit more variable than the rest of the answers in these other cell values, but it's really the overall message that's in the cell value that I'm concerned with, as opposed to like the structure of how it's being answered. That's not really that relevant. So we're looking at what else can you say about your optimization needs. This is all going to be relative to, like, if this was a marketing agency that was per se, this is just a really short example, obviously, marketing agency that was doing some type of intake. So this would be like as if you had intake documentation. How do you leverage this? Well, let's say that you're a marketing agency and you've got all of your either agency partner, however you want to phrase it, and you've got all of this customer data, you have all of these intake docs, and you have all of these written in answers. from all of your clients, but they're just sitting in a pile because who is actually going through them, physically reading them and making notes and trying to do shorthand of what each answer is for all of the intake questions for each doc for every client? Nobody's doing that. But now we have the tool to be able to do that. So that's why we're doing this, is to be able to take that data that you've got that's been sitting there forever and to be able to leverage it through a model to actually give you greater insight, not only into what your clients' needs are, but to give you greater insight into how you think your ICPs are structured. So maybe you've developed your ICPs, but maybe you want to go a little bit deeper and get more ingrained with what is the subgenre, let's say, of the ICP, or has your ICP actually changed over time? Have your personas changed over time? There's a lot of psychographic information that is on countless client sites that, they're single line text fields that are just fill in, or they're a message field, right? Similar to this. And all of that data is just sort of getting lost in translation because it's going to the salesperson, sure, but it's not getting leveraged after that. It goes to sales. They leverage it however they need to in order to either progress or do what they need to with the lead, and then it's out the window, right? It just sits in the pile. So now we're going to be able to take a look at that, and we're going to be able to say, okay, well, this is actually the most common problem that our clients are facing. This is the most common goal that our clients are after. These are the most common challenges and roadblocks. So let's start. Again, you've stripped away any actual identifiers to any companies or any people, so we're just looking at all the raw information now. And after we've got that all sussed out and sorted, we are going to go ahead and export this file. Go ahead and download that as, we'll try it as a CSV. It's like, I don't know, I don't want to say half and half, but there's something like that in terms of how nice this is going to work as a CSV as opposed to doing it as an XLS. Okay, so now we're going to bring over GPT and just going to go ahead and look for our file that we've downloaded, write-in data. And so we've got that. And what we want to start out doing, again, when it comes to prompting, yeah, there's a lot of classes and things out there, and they are, if you don't know anything, I'll make it really, really easy. Prompting is asking questions. That's all it is. Prompt is the same thing as asking a question. If you want to debate that, prompt a friend of yours, right? If you ask your friend a question for some information, it is no different than if you ask a large language model for some information. So prompting is asking questions. Now that we've established that, if prompting is asking questions, then you need to just be very, very good at giving direction and asking questions in a very finite, specific, and efficient manner. So words matter. They matter a lot, obviously, because the way in which we tend to communicate with each other is not the way in which you should be communicating with a large language model. It's kind of like when auto driving first started, and they started doing like auto cabs and things of that nature, Waymo and stuff like that. When those first started going out, they had a lot of issues, and they were crashing into other drivers because other drivers were not following the rules of the road. So the automated cars were having issues trying to adjust to these random use cases of driving. It's the same thing when it comes to asking questions of a model. Context is really important. So we need to tell it what it is that we're doing, and we need to explain the goal of what it is we're trying to accomplish. And the words that we use to get the answers that we want are also extremely important, because we have to make sure that we're using verbiage that has very little subjectivity to it, has very little interpretation to it. The more specified the wording you can use, the better, so that the model has a very, finite understanding of what it's trying to do. So let's start by telling it what it is that we're going to be doing. This is the point at which things start to get kind of quiet. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw on a little bit of DMCA lo-fi for you guys, and hopefully that doesn't come through like too loud over my voice, but just enough to relax. So let's do this. I'm gonna say, hey GPT, always be nice to your models. I wish I had like just speech to text. I'd like to work with you on assessing the data from the spreadsheet as to gather as many insights as possible, both by looking at each column of data as well as cross-referencing industry types by cell values. Columns. Okay. Please analyze the sheets and let me know when you're ready. Well, I'd like to say first, let me know. Let's see. It's not often I get stumped on what I'm trying to do. This isn't like the first time I've done this before. I'm trying to think of if there's a better way of phrasing what it is I want to do right here. Please analyze the spreadsheet and let me know. Yeah, we'll shortcut it. Cool. All right, so now it's just going to analyze the sheet. It understands what it is we're trying to do, and I just want it to. That's what I forgot. But essentially, what I'm wanting it to do is to familiarize itself with the spreadsheet data. So I don't want to ask it to do anything just yet. GPT-4 use today has been quite insane. So if this continues, I'll absolutely just switch over to doing it with either my assistant or some other mode of getting this done. To be honest with you, I think custom GPTs may run off a different server than regular GPT-4. So let me also give that a shot. And since we're gonna leverage this guy overall anyway. So don't work smarter, not harder. What you got for me, Harry? Man, I don't know what's up with the regular server, but let's go. Now let's just make sure, because it was so fast by comparison. It's not that I seriously doubt him. It's just there's a little bit of doubt in there. Yeah, a little bit of doubt in there. I don't know what is going on with the server today. That figures like this. When I was doing the show on Sundays, I didn't have like a whole lot of GPT processing issues because who's really using it at 10 a.m. on a Sunday. But 12:30 to 1:30 on the middle of the afternoon. All right, we'll stick with the original. All right, so it understands all the column data. We understand what we're doing here. Cool. So just without me even having to ask for anything, right? It's willing, or it's offering, let's say, to do an industry analysis, right? To take a look at the distribution of industries represented, the needs within each industry, and explore how the challenges differ by industry, which is what we were talking about, cross-examining the industry by the answers that were given. Job function and title analysis, look into the job functions and titles to discern any patterns to specific needs based on those roles. Then a text analysis to look at all of the written responses and uncover common themes, needs, objectives, and challenges across respondents. So, how we're going to start, this is perfect because it's like 3 of the top questions I would have asked anyway. I'm going to go ahead and say better. How we can launch off of this and make it as accurate as possible. Again, I understand the blowback from a lot of people might be, hey, how do we do this in GPT 3.5? Or how do we do this in GPT 3? I don't know. You'll have to go figure that out. Especially if you have like a CRM of over 500 people. Best of luck to you. You can do this sort of if you have a limited list of contacts. So like if you're trying to do this for a list of 150 or a list of 200, you could probably use 3 or 3.5 to do that. You would just have to copy and paste the values into the input and ask the questions individually. I don't know, after having asked the questions, I can't tell you if it will be able to do the cross-reference through having memorized the answers it gave you. I really don't know. I haven't used 3.5 since 4 came out, so my suggestion is to just use 4 because you can do things like this. So we're going to look at the industry analysis and we're going to quote and say, please start here. This is where the prompting aspects of things becomes slightly easier, because what I like to try to teach people is how to use the model to, obviously, how to use the model to do the work for you. So if you don't understand how to prompt, if you don't understand how to ask the question for the data that you're trying to get, if you're having a hard time with just starting off or working with the model, just ask the model. Just say, how would I prompt a large language model in order to get XYZ? How would I prompt a large language model in order to achieve XYZ goal? Believe me, it will give you the answer. All right, so again, I don't know why it's, and this is, I really dislike this only because of the fact that every time I have to restart it, it may lose track of the original file, lose track of the file data. So it was happening to me earlier anyhow. So what I like about this is sort of twofold in that it is not only doing the work, but it's also telling you like, yeah, this is how I'm actually doing this analysis as well. So it's telling us finance is the most represented industry with 39 entries, followed by marketing, management and HR, customer service, development, and sales. For job functions, let's see, text 156 unique job functions identified. So out of 200 entries, 156 are unique. Okay, so let's start there. Look at the job functions column. Can you create a bucketed list? A fuzzy match method for let's see. So this is a case of talking with a client where, hey, I've had a write-in field for job function for 2-3 years, however long we set up the form for it. And now it's time to streamline so that we can actually get more finite data and keep people more sort of not necessarily keep the contacts more solidified so that when it comes to engagement and targeting for marketing efforts, you're not going all over the place and you're not trying to figure out 156 different messages, right? If we're talking about personalization. Yes, this somewhat gets away from personalization by bucketing these job functions, but again, what we're looking for is like the initial genres, and then we can see if there's subgenres beneath that. Okay, refine or explore another data set. So this is just an indication. We could ask for this as a completed file to download. And that, then it would just show us that, like, Journalist Magazine would probably just start crunching all of those together, right? So let's just see what that completed list looks like. I prefer to ask the model if it can do things as opposed to telling it to do things. I just feel that asking it to do something is more challenging for it, or challenges it so that it actually tries. Last night I encountered this sort of like an oddity where I asked it to analyze an image and it wouldn't do it. And to analyze something within the image and it wouldn't do it. And then I asked it to please try to do it again. It said that it couldn't do it. And then the third time around I said, look, I understand that you have the ability to do this and you've been given the technical know-how in order to carry out this command. So please analyze the image. And then it just started doing it. So I'm also sort of coming across this continued behavior, like it happens more often. This continued behavior that GPT starts acting almost like a bit more like humans do, right? If you think about how it reacted to what I was trying to do, it essentially was trying to be like a human that didn't want to be bothered by me. Right? I was asking it to do something and it's almost as if it was just like, oh man, not really. Like, I can't really do that. And then, and then when I tell it, like, I know you can, okay, fine, I'll do it for you. So I got a chuckle out of that, and me and my wife were talking about it, and I thought it was fairly funny, just the interaction of it. So instead of it running up with 156, now we're down to this list, and I'm not very great with math, so I can't tell you the number off the top of my head. I just know that it's a shorter list than what we started out with. So that's one way of being able to bucket, right? And then you can also obviously go further from that. So you could say that electrical engineer versus engineer biomedical versus engineer chemical, it's already kind of done your subgenres for you, right? If you wanted to do personalization via email marketing, you could say that you're talking to overall engineers. You could send an overall engineer message, and now you have these subgenres for the four main types of engineers that are also listed within all of those job functions, right? Talk about email marketing strategy. I'll get back to it because trust me, this is going to be some pretty sick stuff. So now let's take a look at the questions that were asked, right? Because that's the biggie. So we're going to come back up here and say the text analysis. So I want to see specifically, give me the text analysis. And if I'm gonna tell it to do something, I'm going to still ask nicely, like, please perform this test. Going to focus on identifying the common themes and keywords across the responses. It's going to process the list, basically, clean it up, then do a keyword extraction, and then do the identification of the common themes based on the keywords. So this is basically, this is based on the words themselves. Main themes identified is what we're looking for. Enhancing operations, improving data management, marketing and digital presence, customer focus, supply chain and cost reduction. So you're sitting there wondering, okay, from a perspective of, I'd like to know how to better target my customers that have come through my site. So imagine that we're talking about this table being a table of customer data. So these are people who have already purchased from you, either recently or like in the last year. Let's say we're looking at the last year's data. So in the last year, we know that these are the common themes that people are looking for when they come to our site. If that's the case and our revenue stream is continually increasing month over month, year over year, then we clearly want to continue to focus on these themes. It may be, and so that said, you can take this across your organization and see, hey, are we speaking to these messages? Like, are we actually doing anything behind this? Are we putting any sort of campaigns behind any of this messaging? How are we speaking to these main themes? What does our site look like as a reflection of these themes? What does our ICP look like balanced against this? What do our personas look like balanced against this? Okay. And when you're talking about building buyer personas, right? Now we're talking about the main themes having been identified. We know enhancing operations, improving data management, like these are your key aspects to your buyer personas if you're trying to do something like this. So let's see if we can cross-reference by industry. And so what I'm attempting to find out here is, what are these themes within each industry? What are the common themes there? Now I'm going even further right down the rabbit hole in terms of not only am I able to speak to the themes, but now I'm also able to personalize them to each industry. So now we're talking about page personalization, email nurture personalization again. So now we're looking at solely optimization needs cross-referenced by industry. Looking at finance, there's an emphasis on enhancing and improving operations and interest in streamlining processes. When it comes to management, they focus on optimizing data and increasing online presence and aim to increase efficiency and productivity. We're looking at like the majority answers of your customer data, right? These are the secrets. This is the secret sauce. This is where all the secret sauce is at. Because this is what you only know this coming in the door. Now, again, I don't know who's recording it all. I don't know if anybody's recording it all. Is there somebody with a spreadsheet with checkboxes for each one of these answers and how they relate? Again, we're talking about a work that's being done from a spreadsheet. We're only 25 minutes in, right? Tops. And we've already got insights that would have taken you months to put together. I'm calling it months, because I know you guys have systems out there that have well over 1,000 contacts. Please think that there's somebody out there that is going to sit there. I'm sure there's an organization. I'm sure there's somebody out there like Databox or somebody that's willing to sit there and tell you, give us your datas and we'll do this kind of work for you. Or you could just do it in-house for $20. Right? So like, knowledge is power, and that's why I like to try to teach people how to do this stuff as much as I can, because of how valuable this is. If you had to pay an outside organization to do this for you, you would cry at the fact that you could have watched one video and done it in an afternoon, right? So that's the industry specific insights. Okay, so now let's take a look at the question for primary goals and objectives, right? That's a up there question when it comes to intake. So okay, so now we're going to look at the primary goals and objectives aspect of it, and we're going to do the exact same processing and cross-referencing and segmentation that we did before. Notice that it's doing this in steps. This is the same way in which you want to, like, you should as much as possible, observe how the model speaks to you as well as how you speak to the model. Notice that I'm getting exactly the answers that I'm looking for each time. You haven't heard me go, okay, kind of, but that wasn't really what I'm looking for. Again, that has a lot to do with how I'm asking it, making sure, please do the same analysis, right? That's what we've been doing. We've been doing an analysis of the data for the following question that's in the data set, What are your primary goals and objectives of the agency? So I want you to do everything we've done previously, specifically based on this column. There's really no further interpretation. There's no other way you could have interpreted that instruction. So that's why I'm getting exactly the same response that I did before, because I asked for exactly the same thing. When it comes to it talking to me and it telling me how it is going to do things, notice it wants to do processing first, it wants to do keyword extraction second, it wants to do theme identification third. You can do that as well. When you give it prompts and when you ask it to do something for you, break what it is that you're asking it to do down into steps, and you'll notice that it works phenomenally better, primarily because it understands how to do one process after the other, as opposed to asking it all in one paragraph, let's say, comma separated, and it's almost like an overhaul. It's almost as if it feels, instead of doing each task separately and completing it, it feels like it's going to do all of the tasks for each item one at a time, right? And go item by item as opposed to going task by task. So I feel that is the degree of separation there. Anyhow, so looking at the goals and objectives, right? For finance, it's a focus on marketing and audience engagement. For management, operations and customer analytics, and a marketing focus, right? Also emphasizes marketing and the use of HubSpot's tools there. This was designed with HubSpot as this was designed from the angle of a partner working, we're talking about customer data related to a partner agency, a HubSpot partner agency. So we can see that what sales is looking for, what marketing is looking for, get a nice little summary of the insights, right? So finance and sales and marketing industries highlight a need for innovative marketing solutions and audience engagement strategies. Management and customer service prioritize operational efficiencies and customer analytics. So when it comes to speaking to these messages, right? If we wanted to build out a landing page for getting finance and HR to get better traction. So we have something that's industry share, common emphasis on enhancing and improving operations, signaling a broad need for operational efficiency. So that's what your landing page should speak to. That's what your ad campaign should speak to. Maybe you do it with various themes, but for that segment, that's how your ad campaigns should run until this answer starts to change. And or until you can ask, let's find out. So I don't know why the music just disappeared, but it did. I think it was just that one. My bad. It was just that one album. Anyhow, so actually I don't even have to do with regards to summary insights. I could say, quoting that, are there secondary insights you can glean? Unified emphasis on digital transformation, data-driven decision-making, and customization and personalization. So when it comes to show a unique focus on using insights and drive strategic decisions and expanded digital presence, data-driven decision-making, the recurring mention of analytics across industries underscores a shift towards data-driven decision-making. Companies are increasingly seeking to leverage customer data, marketing analytics, and internal performance metrics to inform their strategies, indicating a move away from intuition-based decisions towards evidence-based strategies. That very nicely, in a very nice political manner, says more and more companies are leveraging AI, right? And they're leveraging the data within their portals. So this is that way to further leverage that data. I can't tell you how many companies would love to know this about their contacts, about their customers specifically. So not even, and you could do it from the top three, from the three levels that mean the most to you. You can do it from an MQL level to understand how you're aggregating those qualified leads, right? What is it? What do they all have in common? Then you can do it from a opportunity level to find out, okay, between MQL and opportunity, who survived? So maybe in MQL, let's just pretend here we've got two sort of wants and or needs per industry here. Let's just say that by the time it gets to MQL level, a couple of these go away. So HR was really only focused on enhancing and improving operations. Sales was really only looking for improvements in their process and management. At the end of the day, finance wanted to enhance and improve their operations. They didn't really care that much about streamlining their process. If more MQLs fall into a particular bucket of the interest that you're finding, right, when it goes from MQL to opportunity, now you know, okay, well, realistically, we were marketing with this message, but when it comes to closing deals, we need to actually use this message. How does that apply? Okay, well, now we know from here to here, we know where to start the nurture and where to end the nurture. The messaging that we should be starting with is this, right? Based on the first glean that we get from the overall, like the overhead industry insights that we get. And then that secondary is that same data at the opportunity level, right? And then guess what we do? Yes, again, we apply it from the opportunity level to the customer level. And now we understand during the deal process, were those still the same initiatives? Were those still the same interests? How many of those closed lost versus closed won? So how many of those interests were genuine versus not necessarily not genuine, but again, now we can look at closed lost reasons, right? The write-in reasons. We don't have to do drop downs anymore. We could actually have each salesperson do a write-in, and we can analyze that write-in to be able to say, okay, the majority of people that came in that wanted to increase efficiency and productivity never actually made it from stage 3 to close 1. Most of them closed lost. Here is the overarching reason why. Right, here's the top reasons why closed lost. If you try to look at this data, some people might say, well, you could look at this in reporting. Not really. If somebody even puts a different letter and or different word as part of their write-in entry, it's going to show up as a different bar on your graph. It's going to show up as a different column in your table. This is the only way that you can take that kind of random data and make it not random anymore, make it actually mean something. So we looked a little bit further into those insights behind, goals and objectives for partnering with the agency, insights by industry. Okay, let's do the last one, which is what are the challenges and roadblocks that are being faced? Yeah, let's do. Cool. All right, so let's get this data, and then we're going to do, in the last few minutes here, we're going to do something really nice. Okay, so what challenges and roadblocks? For the most part, pre-process, segmenting by industry, then it's going to do keyword extraction, and then determine the industry specific challenges. So same thing, if I were to point blank have asked GPT to do this, and I have this one sheet to figure out just industry in this question, and I hadn't done all the pre-setup and everything that we did back up here, which this isn't a crazy amount of pre-setup, right? I talked about creating context and making it as finite as possible. So all we did for context, right, was we just told it what it is, what the data set is, what the goal is that we're trying to do with the data set, and how we'd like it to approach looking at that data set. Okay, so we just gave it 3 very basic instructions, but again, powerful instructions given what it is that we're looking for. And then everything off of that is just essentially either a one-liner or a repeat of a prior instruction. Okay, so looking at sales goals and strategies, adapting to new systems, change management, right, as a issue there. Competitive advantages, struggles with maintaining a competitive advantage in the market over their competitors, obviously. Adapting to market trends for management and system integrations. For sales, it's systems management and customer experience and data security. For marketing, adapting to changes, managerial challenges that exist there. Okay, so nearly, again, same stuff as we saw before. But now, so like leveraging all three questions, what are the most ideal create for each industry? Most ideal landing page themes, including messaging and CTA. Okay. So I realize that this is quite a bit in terms of like what we're asking it to do. So we're going to break this up a little bit. And we're going to say, that's a separate ask. That's a separate ask. And that's a separate ask. But I want it to do all four, and it should nicely crunch it down into one for me. Creating an effective landing page that increases contact conversion or is keen understanding. So for finance, the theme that we want to use, theme and messaging, should focus on innovative financial solutions that offer a competitive edge and adaptability to new systems. CTA for it should be discover how we stay ahead in finance. Let's innovate together. Form questions that you should have, ask about specific financial goals, challenges, and adapting to new technology in areas needing competitive improvement. Header, empowering financial success through innovation. Imagery, use images of financial professionals in dynamic modern settings, integrating technology with finance. Right? So it encompass that overall message, right? Imagery is let's innovate together. So you get all of the themes that you would put behind this, right? For each landing page. And so now you have at least, look, we're talking about I'm not talking about partners who are in existence. Perhaps you're a partner in existence and you need help with ideation. You need help coming up with campaigns, how you're going to split them up, how you're going to do your segmentation. Perhaps that's the case. It could be the case that you're a founder, you're a startup, you're a side hustle, and you want to start doing this. You don't have an entire marketing agency. You don't have the money to go hire a marketing agency, but you need to understand how to do the same things a marketing agency can do. And that's what we're doing, right? So we've got all this worked out, right? We've got it worked out for everybody. Now let's do some serious sick stuff, right? So we've got the landing page for finance figured out. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. Actually, we're going to highlight that along with this. And then we're going to because we have GPT-4, we're going to leverage another GPT model. We're going to leverage the copywriter. And we're going to say, please create I shorted it there. Take it easy. Let's see. Let's do that. Okay. So now we're going to bring in the copywriter custom GPT. And now we're taking the landing page for finance, right? The theme and messaging and CTA. So now we're giving it the context because we're telling it, here's what we're attempting to do. We're trying to create effective landing pages that increase contact conversion. So it needs to have a keen understanding of each industry's unique needs, goals, challenges, and preferences based on the analysis of the data concerning optimization data set concerning optimization needs, goals, and partnering with an agency and challenges faced. Here's a tailored approach for crafting landing pages for each industry. And then here's the finance landing page craft, right? So we're basically we're telling it, here's what we're doing, and here's the plan, and here's what the landing page is going to be. So now give me an email nurture campaign that's based around that. So we've got the initial email addressing the challenges in finance. We've got our subject line, content, and CTA, right? So even in this, like this, you have to think about this stuff as rabbit's hole because it really is. So its idea is to go for 6 emails, tips for execution, obviously use personalization, timing and frequency, follow-up. Now let's ask, right? I always forget, but I shouldn't say I always forget. I always forget to add it first. So now we're asking it, can you give me the schedule for the nurture campaign? And at the same time, can you include some ideas that we should be using in the event that somebody either doesn't open the email altogether or they clicked on the email, but they never submitted it on the form? So now here's our schedule, right? Day 1. And we're saying day 1, day 5. So we know there's 4 days in between, and then from 5 to 10, and then from 10 to 15. So we're basically looking at a 5-day schedule separation, right? Follow-up strategies for non-openers on days 3, 8, 13, 18, 23, and 28. Send a second chance version of each email with a tweaked subject line and slightly modified content to grab their attention. Additional email ideas for non-openers, some subject lines that you could use, right? So in terms of the second chance, missed our insights for finance innovation, still facing financial challenges, we're here to help. For contacts who did not submit on the form, 48 hours after the click on the email, send a targeted follow-up email addressing the action that was taken and encourage them to revisit the page or offer them assistance if they encountered any issues. So then there's some ideas that relate to that, right? Can we help you further? We noticed that you were interested, and is now a better time to explore financial success, right? And then the tips for implementation using A/B testing on the subject lines to determine which versions yield the higher open rates. So these could be your A/Bs, or maybe you want to do A/Bs on both of these. How, you know what I mean? Like however you want to slice that. Personalization and timing, obviously again, and then segmentation, further segment your audience based on behavior. So we're doing that right now based on clicks, right? So we've got some non-openers, we've got some clickers. We might have, we could break it down based on opens but didn't click. We could break it down by, delivered, let's say, I don't know. Yeah, we could say like open, I don't know. Yeah, there's really only those 3 options. Sorry. Anyhow, so you could go those ways in terms of creating additional feedback for this. How can we go even deeper? Let's go like one step even further than that, right? So we've got our email nurture campaign. We've got, our options for this. Now, obviously, we don't even want to have to write it out. So let's go ahead and quote that. And I'm now going to shift over from copywriter to, oh, it's not in there. Oh, where'd my writer? Oh, my old writer has gone awry. Okay, we'll still use this one. It's okay. Let's do Okay. I'm not sure that the copywriter custom GPT has DALL-E enabled, so it may not do that last bit, which is why I kind of put it on the end. But at least let's see if we can get the first bits of it. So basically what we're doing is like, yeah, we have the nurture email. We know what we're supposed to do. So let's just take that and flesh it out completely. And we're not, I'm not saying that this stuff is like obviously the greatest thing ever. I'm not a copywriter, so I'm not even going to start there. Notice it's also giving you like the suggestion for the personalization tokens and where to place them. Gee, that's definitely not what I was looking for. Oh, wow. Okay. That's the that's the first time I've ever seen it do that. Like this is the first time I've ever seen it actually show me the DALL-E prompt for what it's doing. I think it's awesome because I think it's awesome to be able to take this prompt and go use it in another image model to see what the other image model comes back with. Okay, obviously we're not going to use that as the email layout. I think it like muddled what it is that we were asking for. So in other words, like this clearly looks like one layout. This kind of looks like another layout, third, maybe fourth and fifth. So, it was trying, and then there is kind of like an overall sort of theme that's going on here versus, where it's like hero sort of finance, flat graphic theme. And I very much dislike this. This is part of that whole like image bias, right? Bias in the image generation where the top people shown doing any sort of instruction is males. Top males shown are all white. And I'm not entirely sure why I decided to do flat illustration for everything, but that clearly makes it look like this is from the, 40s or 50s, or, a time period when when things weren't quite as even as they are now. Anyway, so I find it hilarious. But here it's going to give us a little bit of definite, or like a little bit of further definition as to what it was trying to do within the image, right? Includes graphs indicating success metrics showing tangible benefits of partnering with the agency. So you can see that and this is all the work that was just for one email, that was just for one industry, that was just for one segment based on one answer type to a question, right? And you could, and that's, the work behind it, the setup. So if we had to go into timing, the setup took about 25 minutes, and then it was just 30 minutes of fun time of give me all the answers every way that I want them, every way that I want to know them. So I hope you guys definitely got a lot out of this. I hope you absolutely picked up on how to do this for yourself. It's very, very easy, much easier than you would think. Again, please, 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 please strip all identifiers out of your data. Should be no names, no email addresses, no addresses, no phone numbers, no zip codes, no post boxes, no countries if you can avoid it, cities if you can avoid it. Don't put anything in there. Look, a finance academic librarian who's a tour manager doesn't mean anything to anyone, right? This answer to this question doesn't mean anything to anyone, right? This answer to that question doesn't mean anything to anyone. Even if you put them all together, all of this is talking to a librarian. That's the end result of this, is that we're talking to an academic librarian. That's the identifier, right? So, hate to run over, don't want to run over. Hope you guys had fun. Hope you guys learned something awesome. And I will see you again next week. Thanks for coming along to GPT with me.